I was looking to do something very different. I wanted to have a film that had a redemptive, happy ending. This film, it's set in South Texas in 1870, just after the Civil War, but it felt oddly contemporary. It was the human story at the heart of it. This journey through this hard world towards redemption really spoke to me.
I was moved by the power of the story and fighting the human nature that says, give into your fear. That ongoing conflict ends up being part of every town that kid goes to read the news. And Paul was addressing that.
The luckiest moment was when Paul Greengrass signed on. He really brought out the heart and soul in it.
The story allowed him to talk about matters that are important to him.
I'm here to tell you about the 11 men who fought back against their deadly fate.
That girl threw me curveballs again and again and again. And she wasn't doing it to throw me curveballs. She was just being her.
Tom helped me a lot. We talked a lot about our character.
We talked about everything under the sun and then dove into the scenes without a moment's loss. You couldn't shake her. She never lost a moment of concentration, and it wasn't because she was sticking to the script. You couldn't shake her because she moved with you, you know? She got into the flow. If it clicks, you know, if you really do have a bond, it shows up on screen. It shows up in small little moments, and you know it, and the audience does too.
This particular film was very contemporary. The two characters who were both lost, searching for home.
I guess we both have demons to face going down this road.
I wanted to tell a story that gets you to a better place, and I was able to work with the greatest actors in movies, really, in that sense. Imagine playing Captain Kidd. We had to ride a horse, drive a wagon, chase around dangerous cliffs, tell great stories.
A man dead and buried has risen from the grave.
It's a phenomenal 360-degree skill set.
Nice work, Tom. Good work, Tom.
Falling with style, I mean, anybody can do it.
He's so funny, Tom. I remember saying to him, it's just perfect. He'd always say, oh, it's just acting. It's just make-believe. It's not real. And he would have just done something so sublimely human, so absolutely simple and real. And that is his genius as an actor.
That's my wife.
Other than being lucky enough to have Tom play Kidd, the second most important thing was finding someone to play Johanna Leonberger.
Action.
I like the character of Johanna.
And bang!
I think she's a little bit like me. She seems like a headstrong girl in a difficult situation.
Captain, Johanna. You, Johanna. We talked about that at the get-go. It's like, when do you think we can shoot this movie? And we all said, when we have Johanna, and not a moment before. When you get her, that's when you make the movie.
The wagon chase becomes a gunfight.
I shoot, you go.
Go!
And the gunfight is on a hillside.
We were never on a stage. There's a reason it looks like we're behind a bunch of precarious rocks on the side of the hill, because that's where we shot it. We shot it very precariously behind some rocks on the side of a hill.
Cue the guys to come out of cover. Tom will see that. Then he fires off his next two and you carry on. Tom in this film was never afraid to be who he was in age.
Hey, Kid! You're good for a man of years!
Help me.
He gave us a kid who was both incredibly physically capable, but also you got that his back hurt and that the physical ordeal of going up Dime Mountain fighting those guys was not one that he wanted. It was brought to him and he was going to have to do it. If you're a Brit to go and make a Western, you're right in those landscapes. It's absolutely fantastic.
They had never been to America. It is amazing. I love this state. I love these landscapes and the sunset.
It was important to find the right locations for each part of the story, but we want to try to be as accurate as possible. And the great thing about Santa Fe and New Mexico is that you can go 30 minutes in multiple directions and get flat desert, you can get pine mountains, you can get rolling hills and the western towns.
John Ford is a director that I obviously very much admire, and every time you set a shot in this gigantic landscape, you think, Papa Ford was here once looking at this.
You can't help but think that this is where these stories would have taken place.
We found some images of traveling preachers, and they really inspired Paul.
The clothes that Kidd wears, they're so characterful. They look like he's worn them forever.
Dressing Johanna, we first find her wearing a traditional Kiowa buckskin. She really is tough, and that's something that Paul wanted to communicate.
Ah! Don't fight!
He's an artist, but his ability to create storytelling and emotion and character through clothes. He's telling you the whole story of that character and that world. There was tremendous strife post-Civil War.
I say Texas first and damn them amendments. And you know it, Captain.
It was a brutal landscape, and David Crank, our designer, did a fantastic job of bringing to life the Texas of 1870. It's really a shattering thing, I think, in this film, because you understand the price of progress, and it opens kids' eyes too.
Texas had suffered because they were cut off from everything. It was lean and it was mean. Everybody was just hanging on.
It became an adventure, climbing up hills. And I remember one hill we had to rope ourselves up. Blazing heat by day, freezing cold at night.
It's scary but cool too that there's tarantulas.
I touched a tarantula.
And rattlesnakes.
We had unbelievable numbers of snake wranglers, and even then some got through. You turn around to be a rattlesnake there 6 foot away.
I've definitely seen a few different types of snakes, different species. I've seen some bull snakes, some red racers, and I've removed 4 of them safely.
We were never on a stage. We were never in a production facility. That's just a gift. That means you're not really faking anything. The light of a fire, light of the lanterns. There were no rules.
We have this wagon crash sequence that kind of escalates. The wheel breaks, the horses run off, the wagon ends up crashing over a hill. They got to dive out. There's a million shots to get, and Paul's got a very specific idea of how it should happen.
Well, listen, we're just going to have a little gathering here. We'll just work out every bit of that wagon stump had to be thought about. What gradients could we take a horse down safely? How close to edges could you go with a horse and a cart?
There's 2 wreck wagons. It's gonna crash down the hill, and that's the end of the line for this wagon.
There are lots and lots and lots of safety issues. You can be in a world of difficulty if you're not very, very careful. Meticulous planning is what it is, and then the execution's got to be very carefully done and not against a clock. But it really works and really looks scary. If you've lost the wagon and you're on foot, you're loading Kidd with more and more difficulties. The dust storm was about setting up the emotionality of it.
Johanna!
And then that's the final shredding of his character.
Johanna!
You know how you make a dust storm? You have a bunch of big fans, but they have to throw dirt into the fans. Otherwise, you can't see that there's wind there.
Johanna!
There's a limit to how long you can expose an actor to.
Sandstorm was nuts. Most guys in that position would come out of there coughing, and Tom was like, okay, what do we got next? Covered in dust, face, beard, eyes. Him and Paul would talk. bam, he's right back in there.
Dust, I'll trade that for fake rain any day, man. Rain at night, oh, that's a miserable way to shoot.
It's so incredibly emotional because you live the physicality of the journey. Whether it's a shootout in a rocky hillside or losing your wagon and have an endless walk with no water, dust storms, desperados.
Hey, Cap! Did not say I'd come for you!
And there's a sort of boyish adventure to it.
He's one of us now, and I'm taking her home!